And we're back Monday, Stripe Show podcast. I'm your host, Travis Fulton. Thank you for making this part of our day. Lots to talk about. My goodness, what a hack fest coming down the stretch. Yeah. On a Sunday. It was like watching a couple of my buddies, local munis, right? Last round coming in trying to break 40. Jeez. Harris English, Bryson Chambeau, cough it up, and Abraham Answer, which I'm very excited about. Walked through the door and got his first win. And talk about that. Talk about Olympic golf. A couple Americans bring home the gold. Nelly and Xander Schauffele. Then we'll look ahead here. A lot of big golf coming up. Got the Wyndham here. Narrow it down, and then we'll get into the playoffs and some Ryder Cup. And so, look, we're going to talk all things golf, and we're going to go deep dive. I got to bring my man back in with Golf Digest, Daniel Rapaport, coming from New York. How you doing there, man?
I'm very well. How are you? It was quite an entertaining day yesterday. It looked like it was going to be kind of a snooze, and then it was anything but a snooze in the end.
It's been a while since I've seen that. You'll see one struggle, but to have two world-class players, right, like Bryson Chambeau and Harris English, who have both won twice this year, going for that third win, first to do it this year, and to really just completely, hit some bad shots. Harris, couple double bogeys on the par threes. Bryson spraying it all over the place, getting emotional again. It was just, what are we watching here? I couldn't believe it. I think Harris probably closes the deal 98 out of 100 on coming down the stretch there. But the slow play, they're put on the clock. It affected him big time, didn't it?
It affected him big time. He said so after the round. I think it wasn't, Bryson deserves a little bit of I don't know if sympathy is the right word, but it wasn't just like Bryson was playing super slow. They had a tough ruling where his ball was like half inbounds, half out of bounds, and that took a couple minutes for them to get the official in and to discuss it, and so that put them out of position. But again, it wasn't like they put a fast player in out of position who's able to get back in position. He's Bryson. He's one of the slowest players out there, so when you put him behind the 8 ball as far as pace of play goes, he's not going to get out from behind the 8 ball. And so what Harris English said after the round was, we're rushing from green to tee, and we're trying to pick up as many seconds as we can. And I found it really difficult to slow down after that. When you're moving quickly between shots, and every golfer can relate to this. If you're trying to, there's a group on your ass, and you're trying to run to your next ball, and you're trying to then calm down and play your shot, you're just not going to give it the attention that it deserves. And I think the cameras actually picked him up saying during the tournament, like, I hate rushing. Mm-hmm. He's clearly rushing. And when you have a 4-shot lead, the last thing you want to feel is any sort of anxiety. And that's a good way and a very quick way to feel very anxious, is worrying about how long you're taking. So it was a really unfortunate circumstance. It was tough to watch. It was a reminder of, in a weird way, of how good these guys are normally, because you saw that golf course and there's a ton of water everywhere. And if you're just a little bit off, you're going to hit it in the water and make double bogeys, where Harris English was 20 under par through, I don't know what it was, like 60 holes maybe, or 63 holes. And then it just shows you how disaster is completely possible out there. But he was just hitting it so well that you never even thought about the water on those holes before. So It was a really, really wild day, and a reminder that winning, even though, it's the WGCs are big events, but it's not a major. It didn't have like crazy pressure feel. It's just anytime that finish line comes in sight, things start to change.
Yeah, that's a good point. Winning is difficult for sure on the PGA Tour. Every player is going to tell you that. That's about as easy as you'll see TPC Southwind play the first 3 days. Very soft, no wind. They tore it up. That is not an easy course. I tweeted out, I was like, I've been there. Like, this course is not that easy, what these guys are making. And then, it firmed up a little bit. The wind picked up and it showed its teeth. I think Southwind is one of the more underrated courses on the PGA Tour. I love the way he played last year when JT won at 13 under. But it really was easy the first 3 days. And then they came back to the field in 16, ended up winning it when it looked like 22, 23 could be the number, to your point, after 63 holes. All right, let's start with Harris. I think with Harris, I was a little surprised that it did affect him that much. He's been out there a long time. There's no way the PGA Tour is going to issue a penalty to the last group. There's no way. Those guys could have been an hour and a half behind. And can you imagine they said that they decide right here to issue a penalty to Harris English. I think
Yeah.
Harris, in hindsight, probably looking back, he made a mistake. I think he's a veteran out there, and he certainly felt the need to hurry up. But they're in the final group. I mean, he's been out there a long time. He knows the tour is not going to give him a penalty.
Yeah.
I think it was probably just more the optics. Like, I don't want to get a bad time. Who cares? Get a bad time. You're in the final group trying to win for the third time on year and get into the Ryder Cup and positioning for the FedEx Cup, all the things that go with it. I get it. So I was a little surprised that he was affected as much as he was, considering him being out there and a veteran of the tour who's been in this, who's been doing this a long time. I mean, he won there, for crying out loud, back in 2013. And you could see the little smile on his face when they said that, when he teed off. And our champion in Memphis in 2013. And Harris was like, damn, I've been doing this a long time. He a little chuckled there. I was a little surprised that it affected him that much. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think it is fair. And I think it's a good point. It's like, just because they give you a warning doesn't mean that they're actually going to penalize you.
They're not going to penalize you.
Right. And so to completely change your routine, to change the rhythm and the cadence that got you to, I think you got to 20 under, right? He was 20 under through 9 holes. To change up what got you there seemed like a bit of a rash decision. Like you said, if a rookie does that and they're freaked out because they don't want to get a time, and that makes sense, and they want to rush, maybe they're feeling a little bit of pressure playing in the final round alongside Bryson. You don't want to be viewed as a drag on the tournament. That's one thing. Harris English had already won twice. He's been a factor on tour. He's been out there for, like you said, close to 10 years. He knows exactly what the drill is.
Yeah.
And even if he could do it over again, let's say the worst case scenario, which would never happen. Okay, he gets a 1-stroke penalty. He's still leading by 4. The only thing that's gonna lead to a collapse is if you completely abandoned your routine and abandoned your rhythm, and that's what happened. And that ended up being not a 1-shot penalty, but ended up being a 5-shot penalty because he shot 45 over 40 on the back nine. So I think you're absolutely right. If he could do it over again, he would try and at least make it look like he's playing faster, because you don't want to be, looked at as like a dick who's not even listening at all. But you don't totally take everything that you've done that's gotten you to the point where you are, where you're leading the golf tournament comfortably, and then throw it all away because they tell you that you guys are out of position. It seemed like a little bit of a rash decision.
Yeah. Yeah, I was surprised. I really was. I think in that situation is like, look, man, I'm all right. I'll pick it up a little bit, but I'm not going to get out of my routine. I'm trying to win a golf tournament here. I'm in the final group. Pretty sure everybody's going to be waiting on me. It's not. Everybody knows Harris is a laid back, good guy. Sometimes you got to just put your foot down and say, look, this is kind of the hand I've been dealt. Bryson's over there. They're got the string out trying to make sure he's in bound. The things were slowing down just from kind of the natural rub of the golf course, if you will, right? Just some unique situations that kind of slowed that group down a little bit. So I just think, okay, I was put on the clock, but historically the tour doesn't do anything about it other than, hey guys, can you pick it up a little bit? Because there's no stroke penalty coming down.
Right. And I'm not sure what the exact rule is, but if they're on the clock, they're timing each player individually, right? So
right.
If they're on the clock and Harris continues to have fine times, he's not going to get penalized, right? So if he just has confidence in his routine and he's not considered a slow player, I don't know why he's worried so much. It would be Bryson who would have to worry about speeding up and getting a bad time, and you think that he's probably already not in the good graces as far as pace of play. So for Harris to kind of take that on his own, and you know what? Who knows? Maybe he was already starting to play bad, and then things kind of spiraled, right? When you hit a couple swings, bad shots, make up a couple bad swings, and you're thinking, oh my God, I'm rushing. And then it kind of spirals from there. Who knows what the actual cause of it was, but it seemed like one thing kind of led to another, and they kind of amplified each other. And then all of a sudden he has something in his head that's what he's upset about, and then that swells. So it was kind of a confluence of errors and a weird set of circumstances that led to a collapse. I mean, a collapse.
He was
leading the golf tournament by 3 I think he was leading by 3, might have even gotten to 4 at one point. And he misses the playoff. So
complete
bogey's
collapse.
the par 5. Bogey's the par 5. Bogey's 16. I mean, even after all that, he's tied for the lead going to 16, which is a par 5. He's got a really good chance to make a birdie, still win the tournament, eke out, and he makes a bogey. So it was tough to watch. He limped in, and you didn't get the sense that he was going to make that putt on 18. Didn't look comfortable over it. Didn't look like he was fired up about it, and then hit a really, really weak putt that crossed the line, missed on the low side by about a foot. So it wasn't even close. It was a tough scene.
I think Harris will bounce back. I have no question he'll be a factor in the playoffs. The one thing that everybody is seeing with Harris English here this year that stands out is he's a good iron player. He's a great putter. He is above average iron player, but this guy is one of the best putters on the PGA Tour. He is a beautiful putter. And his game's in great shape. Justin Parsons, who's been on the podcast a couple times, has done a great job of just getting Harris kind of focused on simple things and back to what he needs to do. And his game is complete form. And I think he'll bounce back. Now, let's move the discussion to Bryson, who is the other person in that group. And I had Mike Shy on, his longtime coach. No one's been in the inner circle more than Mike Shy with Bryson. From his early days to winning the U.S. Amateur, winning the NCAA, to U.S. Open title. He's been with them, right? He's been there. And we did a two-part thing. And Mike, was very candid in coaching Bryson and the challenges and the rewards and all the things that go with it. And he said something to me that really resonated. And he said, when the equation doesn't add up for Bryson, he is the most difficult guy in the world to be around. And I think that really hits home with a lot of the things that we've seen here with Bryson over the last, 6 months or so. In my eyes, at least when I watch Bryson, I think he's unraveling here. I've said this before. I think he's going the wrong way. He is a brilliant player. He can go out and make things work when he's focused. But when the equation's not right and things are not working out, he turns into something that is just, it's difficult to watch. It's very childish. It's difficult to really listen to and watch. It's cringeworthy. And he's got people now fleeing all over the place. He's had altercations with volunteers, rules officials, fans, his manufacturer with Cobra. That is just weird, right? To call out your manufacturer and then your manufacturer to push back. His caddy jumped ship right before they tee off. In my view, Daniel, Bryson needs to take a step back here, I think, a little bit away and work on himself. I really do. I think he needs to take a step back and he needs to kind of do some self-reflection here a little bit and just kind of work on some things internally here, because the path that he's going down right now, no one wants to be around this, right? And it's going to affect his game on the course. It has. So I just think Bryson needs to take a step away and kind of work on some things here a little bit, because what he's doing right now, I don't think is good for him. I don't think it's good for anybody around him. It's just fueling the fire for people and the fans to continue to get after him, which happened to a large degree this week. That's my thoughts. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I agree. And I was hoping that the British Open would kind of be a turning point, because what you said about the manufacturer stuff, if we take a minute to appreciate just how wild that whole situation was, right? So he hits the ball terrible. I think it was Friday or Saturday, the tournament. He makes that comment, the driver sucks. And then the equipment company pushes back, and that guy, Ben Showman, who was on his bag the week before, he didn't go rogue. He didn't just decide, I'm going to single-handedly go back at Bryson. Someone very high up at Cobra, whether it was Ben or someone else, gave him the blessing, like, go back at this kid.
Right.
This wasn't him making that decision unilaterally. They had reached a breaking point where they said, we're not going to let this kid denigrate our product publicly. We are going to go back and fight fire with fire. So I thought that was kind of a wake-up call to him of like, look, if the people who are paying me to use their clubs are going to not let me talk like this, then maybe there's something that I need to change. And then in his interviews, we spoke to him that week at Royal St. George's, and he seemed to be really contrite. He seemed to understand that, like, I keep messing up. This is my problem, and I need to fix this. He didn't do himself any favors at all with his vaccine comments. We don't need to get into the politics of it, but however you feel about it or not, I'm pro-vaccine. I don't have any problem saying that. But however you feel about it, it was more negative press, right? It was another negative press. And then instead of doing the easy thing, which would have been meeting with the writers the next day and saying, hey guys, maybe I didn't say things quite perfectly, or I'm still whatever. he decided not to talk to anyone for the rest of the week. He didn't talk to any of the writers, blew them off 4 days in a row. I think you're right. I think he's kind of spiraling. And going back to that British Open, his press conference the right before the tournament started was again really odd and really hard to watch. He was asked about yelling four. He got super defensive. He was talking about how he doesn't want to be controversial, but he likes trying different things, and he feels like the controversy comes with being different. I disagree completely. I think what makes Bryson his most charming aspect is how different he is. That's the reason why he's a star. It's the reason why he has all those endorsement deals. It's not being different doesn't automatically make you someone who's going to be vilified. There's a way to be different and be loved and
Right.
cherished. I think the people who love Bryson, that's the reason that they love him. But I think you're absolutely right. He does not adjust well. He does not deal with problems very well. And we saw it
No.
at the US Open also when he got a couple bad bounces on Sunday. He just absolutely blew up. I think he shot 44 in the back nine and then blamed it all on bad luck. And then this is him being in contention through a couple holes, and he starts hitting balls that go a little bit too far. And instead of, okay, how am I going to adjust to this? What's going on? It's this is ridiculous. I don't understand how this is happening. He's like a kid who just completely rejects whatever is being told to him. So he doesn't have time. The unfortunate thing is he doesn't have time to take off. He's going to obviously play the playoffs. He's going to be on the Ryder Cup team, so he doesn't have time. But it'll be interesting to see. He's probably not going to play at all in October, November. It'll be interesting to see how he comes back for the new season in Hawaii. Maybe he'll play one or two fall events, but
Yeah.
when he comes back for the full grind starting in January, if anything changes, because it does feel like the Bryson stock is slipping pretty fast right now.
Rapsodo mobile launch monitor. Improve your golf swing today. Pro level launch data in the palm of your hand. It is very accurate, within 2% of a $20,000 unit. The Rapsodo MLM app automatically tracks stats and stores video with shot tracer, helpful for club gapping and understanding true distances for each club. Rapsodo MLM provides immediate feedback, data, and creates a better practice environment, not mindlessly hitting balls. Extremely portable, cases about the size of a rangefinder. And you know what? You can use it both indoors and outdoors. I love this launch monitor. It's the Rapsodo mobile launch monitor. Check it out at rapsodo.com, rapsodo.com, rapsodo.com. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think it is. I think those are all fair points. And yeah, I mean, he's in the middle of it right now, but I think after, I think there's some time away. Self-reflection. I think it's pretty straightforward really on some of the things that need to happen there. And I say that, I mean, we're all in that same boat. We all have to take steps back from time to time and be like, look, I got to work on this and this. So I say that because we don't want Bryson to spiral and his whole team just to keep jumping ship. And pretty soon the guy can't play golf because he's a mental wreck when something breaks down. I mean, I just watch him on the back nine and, there's no joy. There's no happiness here in playing the golf. It's a complete grind. Things are not going his way. He goes to the next tee. He's waving at the camera. And it's just childish. Like, it's just like, really? I mean, come on. I mean, this is,
and it's also, it's a tough one for him too, because it's spiraling. I think it's the right word, because the more that he does these things, the more the fans want to egg him on. And that only makes everything worse. So like, there were a lot of Brooksy shouts yesterday. And they asked Harris English about that, and he said, "Oh, it's really unfortunate." But like, I don't know if you saw, there was some kid. I mean, kid couldn't have been more than 12 or 15 years old, who said, "Like, come on, Brooksy," and Bryson goes, "Good one," right back at him. Which I understand. You've been hearing that all day. You're blowing the golf tournament. It's probably not what you want to hear, but when you react, you make everything that much worse. So he continues to dig a hole, and I don't really know. You're right. I don't know what the solution is. I don't think the solution is for him to just be quiet and stew on it throughout the rest of the round. But the solution's definitely not for him to fight back. So it seems like, time heals all. I feel like he kind of does need to just lay low for a while. And I think he probably didn't expect, I don't know if it's because he's not familiar with the way that social media or the news cycle works. I don't think he expected his vaccine comments to draw as much attention as they did, but they did draw a lot of attention. And it came right after the British Open, where he was in the headlines for reasons other than his golf. I really did think he was going to lay low for a while. He did the opposite of lay low.
We could go on with Bryson. I mean, he's
But I
must
mean, I
watch
want to make
TV, must listen.
I want to make one more point. Like,
Yeah,
I want Bryson in this game for sure. I think we all
sure.
do. Like when he's playing well, I think back to Bay Hill when he won and he almost drove the green on the par five. Like that was great. That was an awesome moment, and everyone loved it, and he loved it too. He was having so much fun that week, and it was a new element in professional golf. And all my friends who don't give a crap about golf knew exactly what happened. They thought it was really cool. Like a character like him is really, really good for the game, but he
Hmm.
can't be the character that he is because that character is predicated on playing really, really good golf and being one of the best players in the world. If he continues to have all this mental anguish, it will rob him of that quality of play, which is absolutely necessary for the character that he needs to be.
That's well said. Yeah, I totally agree, and I think it's spiraling. So I think that's where I think it's this offseason is going to be a critical time for him to take a step back and just keep it simple and work on himself. And then I think from there, the rest of it can kind of play off of that because he's clearly just an incredible talent. I want to move to the Olympics here now. I've got two questions for you here in the Olympics. We know that it's going to take a little while for the Olympics to be a little bit more mainstream, right? I think in the United States, it's only the second time. You got Paris and then you got LA. So you got a little runway here. I look at how the Olympics played out. I think I didn't watch a ton of it. I watched some of it. Being completely transparent, I wasn't as into it as I was, say, this week, the WGC, as I will be for the playoffs, as I will be certainly for the Ryder Cup. But in fairness, all right, we don't really have a lot of runway here. There's not a lot of history, so it takes time. And I look at, though, the outcome. The number one player in the world and the most dominant player in professional golf is Nelly Korda from the United States in women's golf. How big is that to win the gold medal and to be dominant right now in women's professional golf? It's pretty cool.
We've been waiting for an American star in the women's game to break through over the last couple of years. We've had Lexi for a little while and Michelle Wie before that, and there have been great American players, but not for a couple of years now. It's been really dominated by international players, and I think not just that she is American, it's who she is. She's I don't know, 23 years old or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, she is very charismatic. She's a good-looking woman. She comes from an incredible family. Her brother is a professional tennis player. Her parents are professional athletes. Obviously, her sister is one of the 10 or 15 best players in the world. She has real potential to be the kind of star that elevates the women's game. And we've seen a lot of momentum pushing for the women's game. We've seen a lot more attention and a brighter light shined on it. But you need stars. It's the same as the men. It's no
Yep.
different. The men need stars just like the women need stars. You need personalities because there are so many golfers, professional golfers, men and women, and the lack of a team aspect. It's not like, oh, I live in New York, so I'm going to root for this golfer. People need rooting interests, and
Yep.
she is someone that is easy to root for. And I think
Mm-hmm.
being the gold medalist, being a major champion now, an absolutely huge finish to the season, she's emerged as the biggest star, at least over here, in professional women's golf. And I think to win the Olympics and do it on such a global stage was absolutely massive for her brand. So I think she is again, she's emerged. She's a, kind of a cut above the rest right now as far as star power.
Yep.
And the women's game, just like the men's game, stars are the lifeblood of the tour. So I think it's awesome for her to do that. And I also think the way the men's played out as well. I mean, to have Xander Schauffele win, another American, and to have what I thought was really important about the Olympics was, especially on the men's side, there was all this attention on guys who decided not to play and what was the experience going to be like. And then they got there and they were like, this is incredible. And
Mm-hmm.
they were very, very public about it. You had Rory saying, I regret what I said earlier. I regret saying that it wasn't going to be awesome, that I wasn't that excited. I totally caught the Olympic fever. You had Tommy Fleetwood, who was absolutely all over it all week. Xander Schauffele talking about how special it was. Justin Thomas on Instagram saying that it was one of the coolest things he's done in his career to say that he's an Olympian. Colin Morikawa, who to his credit the whole way was really excited about it. To have all of these guys who are the best players in the world say that even this, with terrible time zones, with horrible COVID restrictions, with a lot of guys who weren't playing, to say that it went so well, I think it's going to be absolutely loaded in Paris. I mean, it's
Oh yeah.
Paris. Everyone wants to go there. Hopefully, God willing, we'll be out of this by then.
Yeah.
And then it's a much better time. So it'll finish at probably noon or 1 o'clock. We'll be able to watch it live. I think that Paris is in a really, really good spot for the Olympics, golf wise.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. And it's only 3 years away, keep in mind too, not 4 because of the pushback. So you go 3 years to Paris, then you come to LA. So yeah, there's a little runway here. It's going to grow. Valid points. You need stars. I mean, you got to have stars. The media and this engine in the United States and how it drives professional golf in men and women, you got to have the United States person relevant so people can get behind that, right? And women's golf, to some degree, we know has struggled from that. And we didn't have that American lady that was climbing and winning and becoming a bit dominant. And I think it's fair to say it hurt the sport because as a fan in America, you want that, right? You want to be able to rally behind that. And Nelly's now stepping into that role, and it's really cool. I watch more women's golf than the next person, and I feel myself getting more excited and wanting to rally behind that more now, and see that and push it forward. So it's a big moment, and Xander winning, I think, was very cool as well. The Americans just overall in the Olympics had the most gold medals, the most silver, the most bronze, and the most total medals, obviously, than any other country. So a great showing for the United States in the Olympics, and God willing, we'll be past all of this in 3 years in Paris and have some normalcy. But yeah, I think you're going to see a lot more of the big names going over. I just think about the impact that Nelly is having on.
Sorry, they also have 3 years to figure out the schedule. Like, let's just not have a WGC the week after. It's just not that. It's not that complicated. It seems like the WGCs are on the way out, so we probably won't have that issue anymore. But let's just give it 2 normal events on each side, so the guys can not say that the schedule is the reason that they didn't want to play.
Right. Yeah, I just think about the impact that Nelly's had on these young girls now in this country wanting to play more. I mean, I think it's a real thing, and it's going to have a real big impact long term in what she's doing. And she's a sweet girl. I met her at the Golf Channel, I think probably 3 or 4 years ago. I got to interview her and spend some time with her, and she's just a really delightful young lady who's just got an incredible runway. I mean, I love her golf swing too. It's one of my favorite swings in professional golf. She's got all the shots, short game, putting, check. There's no weakness, and she's not scared. She's got a little dog in her too. Like she just, that's like Nelly and Jessica. Watching both their careers, I've met them both, and it's like Nelly's just kind of got that little bit of like, oh, okay, like she's gonna put her foot on your throat, like she's like, you knock me down, I'm gonna get back up. We saw it too. She kind of let him back in, and then she's like, oh, okay, here we go, right? She just fights back, birdie, and then Lydia fights back, and it's like she's competitive, she's sweet, but she's gonna get after you. I think more so than Jessica and more so than most of those tour players. I love it. I love the fight. I love the dog and watching that.
She's got the edge for sure. And I think, you contrast it with what happened with the tour event this weekend. You had Harris English, who, again, not to pile on Harris English, but he's made those bogeys, but he still has a chance to win on 16. And it was pretty similar to Nelly's situation. Nelly made a disaster at her. I think it was 7, where she made a huge number and she's tied for the lead. And then you have that opportunity where you can walk to the next tee and you can take a deep breath and reset, right? And say, okay, things haven't gone very well today, but I still have everything in front of me. If you would have told me that I have 12 holes and I'm tied for the lead to win the Olympic gold medal, you would have taken that at the start of the week. And it's a big test. And we used to see Tiger happen with this a lot. His record of closing out tournaments was unbelievable. But it wasn't like he didn't struggle at points during those rounds. It wasn't like he played flawless golf. There were periods where he had a 2-shot lead and the guy birdied the first hole and he made a bogey on 5, and all of a sudden they're tied. And I think a big measure of a winner and of a sustained winner is, can you weather the storm from the beginning of the round and realize that, okay, things haven't gone to plan so far, and adjust and flip the script. And she was really, really able to do that. She was able to say, it's okay. We're not panicking. and make those birdies coming in and make the putts when she needed to when Harris wasn't quite able to. So it's not an apples to apples comparison, but it just shows that there are times when you have a lead and you lose the lead, and then it's what happens next that oftentimes distinguishes the perennial winners, the people who are going to win tournaments in bunches, and the guys who are going to struggle more. And she definitely has that edge that you were talking about.
Yeah, she does. She's shown it a few different times. All right, real quick here, we'll go back to the WGC. I wanted to make sure we get Nelly in there and talking about her amazing accomplishments. But Abraham answered. This is a cool story as we go back to the WGC. He gets his first win. I mean, this is a very good player, very good player. He's good off the tee. His approach game is solid. I think his putter can be a little up and down. His weakness is his short game. I think he gets a little clunky at times around the greens, and I think that's held him back in kind of holding rounds together here and there. But he's an excellent player, and he's got a little fight in him too. This is a guy that's, I think, like 5'8", 160 pounds, and he's out there and he's wrestling with big guys, on the PGA Tour. I love watching Abraham play. I was very happy to see him get his first win. And I think this will be interesting. I'm not the kind of guy that says, okay, he got his first win, now he's going to win all the time. Like, I just never really go down that path. Like, let's face it. I mean, he was pretty fortunate here. Like, he was pretty fortunate to get into this situation and get a win. He won, I get it, but I feel like I would lean a little more towards Harris losing it in this particular situation. But, look, I think Abraham made a good point, though. And I say that because in professional golf, anytime you compete and you're doing this all the time, you got to have things go your way sometimes, because sometimes they don't. And Abraham made a good point in his interview. He's like, look, I've had some tournaments where I made a lot of birdies coming in on Sunday, and I felt like I did enough to win, and I didn't. I got beat. This guy did this. And sometimes, like, you do all this stuff to win, and it doesn't fall your way because someone did this, right? And it's like, that was weird. That was unfortunate. Where it's like, okay, you keep playing, and one kind of fell his way. So look, it just weighs, it all kind of works itself out. And in knowing that, and he's finished second, 4 times on the PGA Tour in kind of a short run here. So look, he deserves this. Abraham Answer is a very, very good player. Just give us a little background on him and maybe what we can expect from this player.
I think we learned a lot about Abe at the 2019 President's Cup. If you remember, he was kind of emerged as the International's best player that week, and he kind of got a raw deal. Remember, the whole narrative was that he called out Tiger. Was that he said, I wanted to play Tiger, which was a textbook definition of something that got lost in translation. He was asked a question in Spanish about playing Tiger, about the potential for playing Tiger. This was like a couple months before the President's Cup. And he said, yeah, I would love that opportunity. If you're a professional golfer and you don't want to play against Tiger Woods in the biggest stage, then I don't know why you're playing professional golf. That got bastardized into Abraham Answer wants to play Tiger Woods, and Tiger was absolutely unbelievable that week. But Abe stuck with him until like 16. I think he went either 2-1-1 or 3-1-1 that week, and he really showed a lot. That was before he had all those runner-ups. He might have had one, but I think he was like in the 30s or 40s in the world. He wasn't quite where he was today, but he showed a lot of that moxie that week. And I think when you are 5'8" and kind of like a Zach Johnson build or a Matt Fitzpatrick build, and you kind of have to have that edge. You have to have that complex of like, I'm going to beat all these older dudes, and you have to be tough, because if you dwell on what you're lacking and what you're giving up physically, then you're going to focus on the negative. And I think he really does have a belief in himself, and he's a cool story because he never took a golf lesson, totally self-taught. The swing is a little bit homemade. He's got kind of a funky backswing, but he's a great iron player. He's going to be a President's Cup stalwart for many, many years to come. Might be like, the next, it's like him and I guess Sung Jae will probably be the younger Australians, Cameron Smith, the guys who are going to kind of take the mantle from the Adam Scotts and the Louis Oosthuizens and kind of take it. Hideki's another one who's going to take that team into the next generation. So yeah, he's long been a guy who's been near the top of leaders, but you have to win on the PGA Tour in order to like really start to move up into the top 10 in the world. And he's number 11 now, which is pretty incredible for a guy who never took lessons, was a good college player, nothing crazy at Oklahoma, and then got his tour card, lost it immediately. Another interesting story, if you've ever heard him tell this story about his first event on the PGA Tour was a Safeway Open. I guess it's Fortinet now, I think it's called. And he said he pulls up and it's like, 8:30 in the morning, 7:30 in the morning, and it's cold outside. It's California, 55 degrees, and he's hitting balls next to Rory McIlroy. And Rory's hitting 5 irons, 210, drawing them right in the middle of the club face. And he's looking over and he's like, I can't do that. I don't have that shot. And he said that he tried to become a different player. He tried to start hitting it a lot further and a lot higher that year because he was actually kind of intimidated by Rory. We think that these PGA Tour pros, you're on the PGA Tour, you shouldn't be intimidated by anybody, but they're not above that stuff. And he tried to change who he was, went back to the Corn Ferry Tour, came back the next year, and really stuck to his guns and developed that confidence as a player. And yesterday was the culmination of that journey. And he said, I got off, I think it was 16 or 17. I could not believe that I was tied for the lead. I thought I was going to be like 4 back. And it's what you said. It's the law of averages. You continue to put yourself in positions to win. One of these times it's going to fall your way. And it finally fell his way. And it was it's a huge win. I mean, he won a World Golf Championship. He's like in the top 10 in FedExCup points now. And it's a life-changing win. I mean, it wasn't like his life was bad before that. But now he's a tour winner. Now he's a WGC winner. Now he's really close to top 10 in the world, and he's really elevated himself into, not quite the Rahm or Ikawa Tour, but he's kind of in that next tier there.
Oh, sure. Oh yeah, I think so. I think he's in the tier below those guys now. Yeah. There's no question about it. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Now this is, he's up there a lot. We see his name in that second page of the leaderboard a fair amount, and you clip one of these off, and mentally now, maybe you can relax just a little bit more, and we'll see where that takes him. But like I said, his ball striking is very good. I think to get to that next tier for him, I think he needs to become better around the greens. Like his short game can let him down a little bit. I think he needs to become better there. And I think and if he becomes a little more of a consistent putter, then sky's the limit, for him, because I think he does enough with the ball striking right there, giving up some distance, of course, but he's long enough, and his iron game is certainly good enough. And it's a cool swing. It really is. He's never taken a lesson to this day. Is that what you're saying?
I know he didn't, no one taught him the game growing up. I don't think he has a swing coach.
Wow.
I don't think, I think it's all homemade. That's
pretty cool. That's you can see it too, because there's some idiosyncrasies. I just did a big analysis for it, and I'll post it here. It's an interesting kind of move, but like all of them, when you start getting down to the bottom, it starts kind of lining up and everything starts making sense.
One thing that he does that I think is really cool, and maybe I'm just a golf nerd and I watch way too much TV and I think about these things way too much. He only picks up his tee and his ball with his left hand. It's very, very old school. It's kind of like, I don't know if Hogan did it, but that's kind of what I think about it. He takes a swing, and then it's, most guys have their little kick and they pick it up with the right. He reaches down with the left. It's different. It's cool. I'm looking at the stats. And you're absolutely right. When there's a guy who's small like he is, the temptation is to portray them as like he's a grinder who kind of just chips and putts his way around. But it's not the case. He's 23rd in strokes gained off the tee, despite being 156th in strokes gained driving distance. So that's really impressive. That means he's very, very consistent. And he's 27th in strokes gained approach. There are not that many guys who are in the top 30 in both. And most of the guys who are the best players in the world. So it's interesting, you're right, that he really does most of his damage with his ball striking, despite being that small. You'd think that he's a Zach Johnson type who's just wedge and putting, but it's not the kind of player he is. And I think that's actually a good thing. That's more sustainable to be able to rely on your ball striking as opposed to try and summon these kind of all-world putting weeks to have any sort of chance. So it's a sustainable formula. It's not fluky at all.
No, it's not. I would rather be great on that end of ball striking, and then have my weeks putting and be able to develop my short game as I go. I think that's the perception sometimes in golf. It's like, well, you got to have a great short game to, and these guys have great short games. Don't get me wrong. I mean, like we're talking relatively speaking out on the PGA Tour. I mean, for these guys to sustain, and the conversation here is to get to that upper level with the Rahms and the Morikawas, and so it's all relatively, and he's not chipping his putting his way around and hanging tight like maybe a Zach Johnson and some of the guys that we've seen there. It's his ball striking. I mean, that's what puts him up there. And then when he putts, he's a good putter. He's not a great putter. He's a good putter, a little inconsistent. but he kind of gets a little you saw a couple of the shots where he kind of just whiffed them around the greens. He kind of does that, and I think he got a little fortunate this week. The chips fell his way. He cleans that up with that ball striking. He'll win more. I mean, that's just the bottom line. I mean, he'll just elevate himself even more. So it'll be fun to kind of follow his career. Playoffs are close. Wyndham. We got one more. I'm looking at it real quick here. There's Bo Hogue at 125. Piercy at 126. And my
Ricky's
goodness,
right
Ricky
there.
Fowler is at 130. Oh, Ricky Fowler, he's going to be on tour. He's got enough built in. We know that to be out there. But at 130, does Ricky get in?
What would he have to finish? Probably top 10, I would think, right?
I think he's
maybe.
I would say at
around that
least top
range.
15, 20. Yeah, I would say at least.
Yeah, I mean the odds are no. Just based on what he's shown this year and based on the field, there's a lot of good players who are playing. You got the guys obviously on the outside looking in, but you've also got Matt Wolff is playing because he took a long break and wants to improve. There's a lot of guys who are kind of in the 70s and the 80s who have had really solid seasons who are going to be playing. It's a very strong field, and it's not just Ricky who's on the outside looking in. I'm pretty sure that Justin Rose is outside as well. Tommy Fleetwood, Danny Willett. The Brits are having kind of a rough go this year.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of guys who are pushing, and this is not this isn't the Barracuda. It's not like it's a really weak field. There's going to be a lot of really good players who are out there. So the odds are that he doesn't. It will be interesting to see, like, if he misses the playoffs, does he? I guess he'll go to Korn Ferry Finals. Would he do that to try and prove his priority? Because yes, you're right. He's not going to like fall off the PGA Tour. He's got past champion. He's got money list stuff, but his priority will drop because I believe his win expires after this. Like, this is the last year that he's exempt from winning in the desert in Phoenix. So I think he would be in the like 125 to 150 category, which doesn't get you into all those big events. I mean, he'll get sponsors exemptions, as we know. Ricky's big sponsor guy, so he'll be fine. But it'll be, I'm more interested if he does miss it. Like, what does that look like? Is he going to play a bunch in the fall to try and get up in the reshuffle? How does he handle that if it actually does happen?
I don't think he does. I don't think he goes to the Korn Ferry Tour.
You don't think he goes to finals? Too much pride?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think he kind of. I mean, just the fact that the fact that he didn't play the Barracuda, I think, kind of says that he's comfortable with where he's at. If I make it, I make it this week. If I don't, then I'm good for next year. I don't know. I think if he was really concerned, he would have played Barracuda.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't need the money. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And, he's confident that he's going to get a good amount of starts. So you're probably right. But it's tough. I mean, it wasn't like there was any shortage of events. It wasn't like last year where it was kind of weird and, guys missed the play. Like, you had a lot of events. This was a full season of you playing worse than 125th on the money list or on the FedEx Cup. So, and it's interesting because, in the Memorial, he played really solid. I think he was top 10 at Kiowa as well. He looked to kind of be turning the corner, and then he's hit a wall again.
Yeah. It's a bit of a mystery there. I've reached back out to his coach, Tillery, who I know fairly well, and I had him on when they first started to go down these changes, some wholesale changes with Ricky. And, it just appears to me that there was an effort there to make the change, really commit to the change that he was doing in the swing. I don't think they were getting the traction that they were looking for. His strokes gain approach kind of tanked, and his driving wasn't as good. And then it started leaking into his putter. And then, about 2 months ago, I was watching him swing, and it just looked like he was doing what he used to do. Like, it almost just looked like the same Ricky, So I don't know if he's just jumped it or there's a modification. I don't know. I'm not sure where it's at. But to your point, 8th at the PGA, 11th at Memorial. Then he missed the cut at the Travelers, and then he made the cut in July at the Rocket Open, the Open, and the 3M. But the concern there is I think the ball striking. I mean, his putter started to come back, but his strokes gain approach still strokes gain off the tee, like he's just still not, that good. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. There's a lot of names. I mean, gosh, Adam Scott is like at 121. I mean, it just.
Is he really? I feel like
Yeah.
he's made every cut, but like never finishes better than 40th. I guess he's sort of a case study in what
It's
happens
just
if you finish
I mean,
40th
it's just
every
weird
week.
to see some of these names, around it. I don't, yeah. Adam Scott is 121. Matt Kuchar is 124. Oh my God.
Yeah,
I mean,
these are
there's
really
three
big
names:
names.
Scott, Kuchar, and Fowler, right there. Three names just hovering around the 125.
Yeah, and then you got 136 Tommy Fleetwood,
Tommy Fleetwood, yeah.
138 Justin Rose, 141 silver medalist Rory Sabatini, 140 Francesco Molinari. So yeah, I mean these are guys who 4 or 5 years ago were like Ryder Cup, no problem,
Yeah.
top 20 in the world. It just shows you that the FedEx Cup moves a lot faster than the world rankings because Adam Scott, I'll tell you that much, is definitely not 120 in the world rankings. So
No.
it starts fresh every year. It's a true meritocracy, and it's kind of cool in that way. I
Yeah,
like
it
it.
is.
I like the fact that it's really a snapshot in how did you play this season, because the world rankings are slow to move. They
Yeah.
just are. And the FedEx Cup is a much more accurate representation of how you fared in the last 12 months or whatever it is with the wraparound season. And
I think
it doesn't
Justin
care who you
Rose,
are.
I think Justin Rose looks a little unmotivated to me. Just not quite himself. He's on more commercials now than Ricky is, for crying out loud. I mean, Ricky obviously went through some changes, been a tough year. Kuchar, I don't know. If the game has kind of passed him by, he hits it nowhere, off the tee when you look at today's modern game. And I think Gary Woodland, it's been kind of a tough year for him, injuries and kind of bounce back and forth with some swing coaches. And so, those are just some of the names that I look at the bottom here that we start to do, right? When you start getting to the Wyndham Championship, which, Wyndham's, I don't know, man, they've kind of just fit into a nice spot here. It's good discussion, right after the WGC and then right into the playoffs. And we've got this week, we got Wyndham Clark on the podcast on Wednesday, who has worked himself in. He is 80th right now. And so we'll have him on. And in 2 weeks, we've actually got Harris English. So that's perfect timing. We'll let things kind of settle down here a little bit.
That's good stuff. Yeah.
You don't, Harris kind of finished.
You don't need him the week after. You don't need him the week after. Hey, so what?
I was texting with Froggy. I was like, man, I'm glad we don't have him this week because I'm not sure that would happen. But knowing Harris, he would have done it. He's a stand-up guy. I mean, the fact that he did the interview with Amanda was cool, and so he's a stand-up guy. I mean, I look forward to catching up with him in a couple of weeks. All right, man, I gotta let you go. We talk golf forever. I know you're busy with Golf Digest. I can't thank you enough for coming on. And playoffs time. Let's roll. Wait, the playoffs start this week, right? For a lot of guys, like they got to play to get in. Some of these guys down there at the 125. Others you're secure, but it's a fun week. I enjoy this week. I really do. The Wyndham and like who's got to do what to get in, and what these names that we're talking about. It's fascinating. It really is. We're in a different time to see the likes of Kuchar and Fowler and Adam Scott and guys like, really? These guys are at the 125. Yeah. Here we go. Start all this week. All right, buddy. Thanks for coming on. Do it again.
Yeah, it's week 17 of the NFL. So, things have to happen. Yeah, no, I'm always down. Right. I'm always down. Good talking to you, pal.
I just want to interrupt this interview real quick and give a shout out to my friends over at OnCore Golf. OnCore provides some of the most cutting-edge technology in a golf ball that I have ever seen. Their team in Buffalo, New York is changing the script of golf technology through their perimeter-weighted designs, which offer players enhanced accuracy and control for every shot on the course. With their award-winning Elixir and Avant 55 golf balls, they are transforming the game for players of all skill levels. Visit OnCoreGolf.com/Travis Fulton for more details about their products that are revolutionizing the game. Now back to the Stripe Show.